Hello, this is Dr. Mears. Today we are going to learn about probability. First, let's start off with some definitions. What is probability? Probability is the extent to which an event is likely to occur. It's a chance process. Sample space, denoted by the letter S, is the set of all possible outcomes. An event is any collection of outcomes from some chance process. If you take this probability, this course, in college, it is good to know that events are usually designated by capital letters like A, B, C, and so on. We're going to go through this with a real-life situation in a minute. We're also going to be going through the rules. But let's just read through our basic rules quickly before we start playing. Number 1, the probability of an event is a number between 0 and 1, inclusive of 0 and 1. An event with a probability of 0 never occurs, totally impossible. Rule number 3, an event with a probability of 1 definitely will happen. You can bet on this one. And lastly, number 4, probabilities are composed of events and their sample space. So P represents probability of the event that we're talking about. And that equals the event, which is the number of outcomes, divided by the sample space, which is the total number of outcomes. And so what we're going to be doing is we're just going to be playing with a coin. So we're going to be flipping a coin, and we're only going to be flipping it once. So we have a coin here. It's actually from 1985. We see we have heads, and we have tails. So let's go through, because we are going to be learning about probability through playing coins, flipping a coin. So the probability is the extent to which an event is likely to occur. It's a chance. What are my chances of flipping a head? What are my chances of flipping a tails? Let's go and see. Sample space, the set of all possible outcomes. Well, let's see what our sample space here is. For flipping a coin, we're either going to have heads and tails. That's it. It can't be anything else. There's no other choices for this coin. All right, the event. The event is any collection of outcomes from some chance process. Our chance process here is the actual flip. That's our chance process. Flip. I'm starting to annotate our notes if you would like to along with me. So our chance process is our flip. So when we flip this coin, what event can happen? Well, I can have the event that I flip a heads. That's one type of event. I can have another event where I flip a tails. That's a second type. So this is an event, and this is an event. So here we see we have 2 events in total. And 2 events are going to bring us right back up here. Those are our sample space, which are our 2 events. So let's go and play some coin. Let's see, basic rules of probability. Probability of event is a number between 0 and 1. These are your decimals, 0.9, 0.5, 0.32. Once you change them into percents, that gives you the chance process. I'll just tell you about that in a minute. All right, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to flip this coin, and we're going to use rule number 4. The probability of an event equals the number of outcomes divided by the total number of outcomes. So since it's heads right here, actually, let's flip it. Whoops, here we go. It's tails. All right, so what was that probability? P, this P denotes probability. Okay, so probability of flipping that tails that I just flipped. Here's your event, just like I did here, but I just wrote actually what the event is. Absolutely fine. Equals. Well, what's the number of outcomes? How many tails are on a coin? Well, there's only one tail on the coin. And what is my sample space? So I'm going back up here. So here's one event, here's the other event. My sample space, how many do I have here? I have 2. So my sample space down here is 2. If you would like to divide this out, we're going to see the probability of tails is 0.5. And this is a number between 0 and 1. You may leave it as 1/2. You may leave it as 0.5. If you would like to change it into a percent, we multiply it by 100. So we have a 50% chance of flipping a tails. And so this 50% was just 0.5 times 100. That gives you 50. And that's where I came up with the 50%. But notice, I said 50% chance of flipping a tails. So this is going back to our probability, which our probability is a number between 0 and 1. The probability was actually 0.5. And then I made it into a percent chance. So please, when they're asking you for probability, if you do take this in college, remember that probability is a number between 0 and 1. So if they're asking for a probability, do please write this answer down. Okay, well, let's see. Let's say I flipped it and I got a heads. So, going into another piece of paper, I got a heads. So my probability that I flipped a heads. Well, how many heads are there on this coin? There's just one head. How many different types of outcomes? Well, I have heads, 1. I have tails, 2. 2 total outcomes. So my probability of flipping a heads was very similar in my probability of flipping a tails. Actually, it wasn't very similar. It was exactly the same. Probability of heads is 0.5. There we go. All right, let's get a little bit more detail. Let's say I'm going to give you $100. $100. Are you ready? $100. Probability if you flip a heads or a tails. Doesn't matter. I will give you $100. Would you take that bet? Well, let's figure out if you're going to take it or not. Well, heads or tails. So how many events is that? Whoops. Heads, well, that's one event. Tails, that's 2 events. Okay. Well, how many possible outcomes are there? What's my sample space? Well, there's only 2 possible outcomes. So my probability of a heads or tails, if you do divide that out, is 1. Let's see. Should I take this bet? Rule number 3, an event with a probability of 1 definitely will happen. Bet on this one. So I guess I'm taking that bet because any way you do it, if I flip that coin, I won. Yay. My flips are awful. This doesn't work in front of a document cam because I don't want to get up too high. Okay. So heads or tails, 1. All right. Well, I'm going to give you $200 for this bet. Are you ready? Probability you flip a heads and a tails at the same time. Yeah, $200. Heads and tails at the same time. So this and is at the same time. Well, let's think about it. An event such as heads and tails at the same time would have to land. I don't even think I can do it here. It doesn't land. Nope. Nope. So there is no heads and tails in flipping a coin. So the event of heads and tails happening at the same time is null. There's no heads and tails here. Nope. There's heads or tails, but you can't get both at the same time. So there's no such event like that, so it's 0. All right, well, 0 out of how many total? Well, only 2, because we have heads and tails. So this means that we have absolutely no probability of getting a heads and tails. Absolutely impossible. So $200. Put $200 on the table. Are you going to take that bet? Well, rule number 2, an event with a probability of 0 never occurs. Totally impossible. Guess we're not taking that bet. So we have a couple different outcomes here. We have betting on tails, 50%, not bad, or 0.5 probability. Betting on heads, probability of 0.5 as well, so 50% chance. All right, heads or tails, that's a great bet. I'm going to take that all the way because we know the probability is 1. Heads and tails at the same time, at the same time. Well, figured out that that's 0. Not going to bet on that. I'll keep my 200. Thank you very much. All right, so this has been Introduction to Probability. We went through our definitions and we went through our basic rules. Once we start getting into more complicated games, then we will start getting into a little bit more. There's more rules than just these 4, but this is your Introduction to Probability. I hope it was good. Make sure you take that Google survey that I put up there, and I hope this helps.